Hello and welcome to this video. It's Sunday, so this is going to be a Philosophy Sunday video. That little demonstration I just wanted to do then was to make a point. And what that point was, is that not that my nipples are able to create sound. That was done through the artifice of video. Every time you sit down to watch YouTube and switch it on, what you are seeing is never completely true, because all art is actually artifice. Now, I have another YouTube channel called The Magic Box, and there's a whole video where I explore the idea of artifice, and this isn't going to be about artifice, but at least I've made the point that if I squeeze my nipple, the sounds you just heard are not actually contained within that nipple, that was done through the magic of art. I chose that to happen, and I did it. And why did I do it? Because I thought it would make you laugh. Now on this video, what I would like to do is talk to my detractors, my haters, and all the people who don't like what I do. And I'm going to try and explain to you why I think that is, why I carry on in the manner I do, and actually talking the wider idea about people hating you, right? Because a lot of people out there that get into the music industry, the reason why they get into the music industry is not because they're artists or they want to be creative and make a point. That's the last thing on their mind. What's actually on their mind is getting people to like them. And the more people they can get to like them, the more they will be happier, because it will plug up some strange hole that they have inside themselves, a hole of self-loathing. So self-loathing is essential for every creative person. The things that drive creative people aren't just highfalutin ideas. There's also ideas of ego, of being better than everyone else you know, of being a special person, unique, being seen as being sensitive, lots of people liking you, thinking you're clever, thinking you're wise. Those are all the things that you can have. And as you get any sorts of success, if you know how to get success, that is. And as I used to say to my students, if you look at the totality of people trying to make it in music or in art, there's so many of them. And that very thought will be demotivating to you, won't it? Why bother doing art? Because there's so many people doing it. But 99% of them don't know how to do it. Those who do know how to do it often are able to do it. Yes, that's an interesting thought. Now you're looking at me here with this YouTube channel. Now I'm not the most successful YouTuber in the world, without a doubt, but it was essential that I got this up for my creative needs, but also for my financial needs. A criticism that was put across, not to me, it was on some private discussion people were having on Facebook, that somebody who sort of knows me screenshotted and sent to me. And when I watched people talking about me in the way they were, and throughout this discussion, they were calling me a Burke. Now, the word Burke in the United Kingdom, it's actually Cockney rhyming slang, I believe. For the full Cockney rhyming slang would be Berkshire Hunt. So I have racked my brain that what rhymes with hunt that they were trying to describe me as. But whatever it wasn't very nice, was it? No, it's not nice to be seeing people talking to you in that realm. But their sort of main criticism, which they called me names, was to say he's just doing clickbait videos. That's all he's interested in. All he's interested in is doing clickbait videos. And so people watch them. And then they watch them. They see what he's up to. And that's bad. Because he's not a real proper artist like they are. In other words, a failed one that makes no money. Because he's only doing stuff to make people look at him, right? You may be a virtuoso musician. You may be the best songwriter in the world. You may have all these skills and talents. But if you don't know how to make people look at you, not listen to you, look at you, you won't get anywhere, right? It's a skill to get people to look at you. Now, I'm not here on this video to try and argue against these people. Because when that person said, all Andy's interested in is clickbait, he's totally right. As I've done YouTube, I have come to understand how YouTube works. And I'm going to tell you it now in case you want to do a YouTube. First rule of YouTube, right? You've got to be engaging. If you are a talking heads YouTuber like I am, and it's just basically a still camera and I am looking into the camera lens, and if you notice on this one, I get criticised for not looking into the camera lens. This one, when I do look at you, I'm looking straight into the camera lens. I know exactly technically how to get it so I look into the camera lens every time I talk, right? But I choose not to do that. Why? Because I want my videos to feel like one end of the conversation. When you film a conversation, when you see the answer, I'm talking to someone who is imaginary over there. I'm not necessarily talking to you. It's a conversation. But in this case, my artistic decision on this video was to talk to you. Over the years, I have learned a way of engaging the audience. So when they switch the video on, they're engaged. Oh, is that why you did that silly nipple? Yes, that's why I did it. Because you switched the video on. Why did you switch the video on? Because you saw the thumbnail, you saw the title, and you thought, I want to know about that. Why did you click on it? Because you're nosy. I haven't decided what the title of this, but it will be something that you can only find out if you click on this video. So that's made you click on it. If you want to get views as a YouTuber and you're established, the easiest way to do that would be to say, I've got incredible news about this site, or you will not believe that this has happened, ? With me going, or like that. And that will get people to click on. It doesn't even need to be about anything, all right? Once somebody clicks on, you have to fulfill the needs that your clickbait title has put out there, because the reason why it's clickbait is because it's interesting to people. So for something to work as clickbait, it has to have something which is compelling to the audience. And if you have the ability to take that idea and think this is what is compelling, be able to intellectually understand what is compelling about what you're about to do and get right down to it, then you could either be an honest YouTuber, right? Which will be artifice. You will pretend to be an honest YouTuber and try and impart your knowledge as honest as you possibly can. An example of a YouTuber that's absolutely brilliant that does this is Mary Spender. Now, I've taken the mickey out of Mary Spender, but in reality, I have huge respect for her. I think she's a brilliant YouTuber. She's funny, she's engaging, but I always feel that she is searching her soul and trying to impart how she feels about things. She's not necessarily, she's an incredibly talented musician. She's a great singer, great songwriter. She plays all the instruments. She has all that down. But her thing is that she is on a journey, right? And she is imparting all the troubles that go. I'm not like that, you see. I'm not like that as a YouTuber, right? What I do is I think about what this is about, and then I toy with it, I play with it. Because if I was to be earnest, for me personally, I think it would be po-faced. It's difficult for a man of my age to come on and be earnest. So I mess about with it. I'm very aware of the dynamics that are going on these videos, and I toy with it and play with it. And I always try, in the end, to take the mickey fundamentally out of myself. I am a certain type of musician. I was very into like skill and technique coming up. I'm very aware there's a whole bunch of people that don't rate that. Oh, music's not about skill. It's about feeling and all that. But I was never one of those guys. I was there sat and doing like 6 hours of practice on my drums a day, followed by another 4 hours on guitar. I was trying to do all the difficult stuff. And a lot of the music I first went to as a kid was an exploration into musicians who were very skillful. That was what I was interested in. But within the skillful musicians, there are still great artists and crap artists. So people like Chris Impatelli, who was an incredibly skillful guitarist, held no interest for me. Yngwie Malmsteen did a little bit more, but John McLaughlin, he really did. And then that took me to musicians like John Coltrane and Charlie Parker, and they were doing something more that was more beyond the notes. So I could recognize that. But my route to music was through skill. It was through the ability to compose. And I have to be honest, I love music which is rich. I want my ears filled up with music, rich harmonies, rich melodies, incredible rhythms. I want to be taken down. I want to be crying 1 minute, then I want to be excited the next. I want to be frightened. I want music, and what most people go to get that is classical music. But I've always had in every sort of art form a massive interest in improvisation. And I have to have improvisation in my art. It's what sets me alight. I like the electricity of not knowing what's going to happen next. I don't like it when people know what they're doing. I like it for them to not know what they're doing. So what I do when I come on here is I have an idea. I know what's compelling. I'm going to come into this, but I don't know where I'm going to come at it. But I'm going to try and improvise my way through it, right? And within that, I am going to, rather than just criticize things straight on, I'm going to treat everything that I love with love. So when I love music, I love it. When I don't love it, but I can appreciate it, that's very hard for me to get across. And so other great musicians, what I do is I access the sort of idiot musician side of me, the one that is not really interested in lyrics. So I'm going to do that now about an artist called Bob Dylan that is, I believe, in my sort of intellectual understanding of 20th century music, the most important rock musician of all time, and perhaps the second most important musician of the 20th century. His achievements in the early 60s on a run of albums is just one of building and basically rejigging music so that sort of this novelty music of rock and roll that the kids have got into, he picks up and he maneuvers round so it becomes the art form of the time. He makes the novel, he makes youth music, he makes the wants of a new age of people. He writes that large, and he can't do it with technique. He has to do it with a certain aspect of folk music, which he transfers into the electricity and the excitement of rhythm and blues and rock and roll. But he retains this idea of expressing the folk, right? Expressing the thoughts of the folk, which in this case is young people, but it's also gay people, black people. It opens its arms up to everybody, and he does it in a mystical way. Now, I can talk like that, but you understand that's artifice. I'm putting that on. I know enough about music to do it, and I believe what I'm saying, but I'm putting that on. It's not real. I'm aware it's not real. What I'm doing is I'm trying to create a video for you where the talk, which I'm improvising, it's more than just what I'm saying. It's to do with the energy. It's to do with this guy. This guy's really explaining to me, even though I don't quite get what he's saying, or it doesn't really matter what he's saying, but his conviction of how incredible Bob Dylan is, it's just, I can feel it. I can feel the importance. He's got conviction. This is great. I like this Andy Edwards. And then someone comes on another video, don't they? Oh, Bob Dylan. I get sick of being told by everybody how great Bob Dylan is. He came over to the UK the other day, did a tour. He's got to be 80 years old. Everyone probably spent 150 quid a ticket. They all sat there. It's Bob Dylan, it's Bob Dylan. And out he comes, 80 years old, sits behind a piano that no one can see him, plays for about an hour, mumbles his way through a whole bunch of music, which is incomprehensible and sounds awful. And then went off stage and everybody went home. Did they enjoy it? Was it set in their little ears alight? Of course it wasn't. They were there because they were in the presence of a genius, the genius that is Bob Dylan. He should have given up years ago, right? He happened to be in the right place at the right time, didn't he, old Bob Dylan? There he is in this sort of coffee house folk scene. He got all these middle class people turning up and being all, sensitive. There they are, listening to Phil Ox and Pete Seeger. And there he is. He's a little pretender. He's not that good. He can't sing like that. He's okay on the guitar. He's managed to, he gets a bit puffed because he's only little when he's singing. And when he gets a bit puffed, he just sticks his mouth against a harmonica and he just breathes in and out. And in that, he gets a tune out of it, I suppose. And there he is. Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man, play a song for me. How could a tambourine man play a song? Nobody says that to a tambourine man. He's supposed to be this great lyricist. Right, and he's saying that we've got to listen to the tambourine, play the song. I mean, it's like, it's like, say you're at a party and it's all going a bit rubbish. We need something to happen. Maybe it's got a bit of music. And can anybody play some music? Yeah, I can entertain you with some music. Oh, what do you play? Guitar, piano, perhaps? We've got a piano here. Maybe a saxophone. You could play a bit of Baker Street. There's just something to entertain us. Yeah. And they open up and he gets his little round box out, opens it, and he pulls out a tambourine. The last thing that you say at that point, the last thing you say to him is, hey, Mr. Tambourine Man, play a song for me. You don't say that to him. You go, bloody tambourine, tap, tap, tap. It's not the Salvation Army, Right? This is rubbish, right? And that's off his best album, right? With his only good song. There's only one song I like by Dylan, and it's the one that opens up that album that I can't remember the name of. He goes, first time coming in, woman and the government, well, so bad, so naked down, so dead, look at kid. You've been sitting down, rubber down, walking around the geek, well, blowing down, feather down, duck around, the way down, the way the wind blows, ring, ching, and this is the band in the background. It's like they've just turned up. What's the arrangement, Bob? Yeah, just strum your chords, blow your harmonica, play your drums, just bash away. Do you want it to go up and down anyway? Nah, just go all the way through. In fact, we use that arrangement style for the whole bloody album. This is his best album. Down, walk down, walking down the ink, well, look him all, like it down, let it down, rabbit. We had Chaz and Dave. Chaz and Dave's way better. Chaz and Dave's better. They got better lyrics, better songs. But it's just better. I'd rather have Chaz and Dave than bloody Bob Dylan. Right, then he does that double album, Blonde on Blonde. Why did he do a double album for? And then once he done that, what's he do after that? Nothing. Become a Christian, bring out Blood on the Tracks, where he got a bloody producer in, so it sounds half decent. Blood on the Tracks is a fantastic album. It was irrelevant in 1970, whatever it was when it came out. Bloody, and then what's he do? Nothing. Crops up in that bloody awful film that Martin Scorsese did, The Last Waltz. They're all boring in that. Every single one of them. They bring it out here to drone away on this awful Americana. And he's never done anything since. He did a quite good album at the end of the 90s, I suppose. I heard that. Can't remember who produced it. But it was a bloody producer that made it good. He's rubbish. Right place at the right time. Everybody was looking for a little bloke with a big nose who could strum guitar, because then all the ugly blokes could go, oh, I'm a musician. Yeah, could you play a song for me? I'm not a tambourine player, but I sing and play guitar. Oh, like Bob Dylan. Yeah, I'll play you one of his songs. Because anybody can, because it's got 3 chords, and anybody who could not sing can sing one of these songs. I can sing better than Bob Dylan. I can. Right, so that there also is artifice, and I don't believe any of that. In the first talk, I was exploring the side of me that believes that Bob Dylan is one of the greatest musicians of the 20th century. I could go and inhabit that, or I could go and inhabit the true part of my personality, which is, as a young guy, being a musician and listening to all my heroes and then hearing how great Bob Dylan was and going and listening to him and going, well, this is just rubbish. What is this good? And the older me could have said, yeah, you don't understand. You weren't around in the early 60s. And these songs, the lyrics, in a sort of mystical way, say something to the people of that time. But what does it say? Well, I think it's an expression. I think when he did The Answer, My Friend, Is Blowing in the Wind, that was a call to these people. And then once they were there, he could explore all sorts of different areas and different things and different dynamics. And it's very deep. That the virtuosity is in the lyrics. Some of those early songs that were like an anthem to draw the youth to him were very important. But then once they bought into it and he got them, because you got to see, when you're an artist, young Andrew, the hardest thing is to get people to look at you. That's the hardest thing. Once you've got them looking at you, once they're listening, then you can do more. You can do more and more. And people will then study the lyrics and you will be able to draw them in. Now, Dylan could have just done that and that would have been enough. But he recognised, even though he loved this folk sound that he'd taken from Woody Guthrie, he also recognised not so much the rock and roll aspects, not even the rhythm and blues, but he recognised the idea of electricity. And the idea of electricity is, it's like the artist goes from being in the coffee house to being in the concert hall. And the electricity, it's like a Frankenstein that you plug in. And that was very exciting when Jimi Hendrix and Jeff Beck were trying to do it. But when Dylan did it earlier, before the rest of them, and when he stood up and brought this incredible voice he had to talk to young people and draw them together, but to move to electricity and risk the wrath of the establishment, it was the ultimate punk rock. When those albums went out, they reached absolutely everybody. And he democratized pop music. We had gone from the idea of being Frank Sinatra in front of an orchestra. It was almost unattainable. When Elvis Presley came out, he got one foot in that rock and roll visceral thing. But Elvis was unattainable. Nobody could do that. Right, then the Beatles come out and Dylan comes out. And the Beatles are suddenly making rock and roll for the common man, but they haven't got every piece in the jigsaw. What they haven't is the idea that they are songwriters and they've got something to say. And there is a meeting between those two, literally a meeting, and it's the most productive crossover. The American popular music that had come to England via the Beatles went back to America, and they met Dylan, who wasn't a part of that Americana experience, but he was once removed. It was him, Woody Guthrie, Lead Belly. And the spirit of that American music came back into the Beatles. And then we suddenly get Help, we get Rubber Soul. And that is the totality of it. Now, I can say that at my age to a young me. But I also know that that young me is inside what I've said. All right? So this is why I do a lot of the things I do, whether you like it or not. It's to get people to look. It's to make the video engaging, right? It's to fulfill the promise of the clickbait title, which is one of the hardest things to do. I wish I could do it every single time, and every YouTuber wishes it. I wish I could have that perfect mix, which is like having an incredible hook in the verse and the chorus, right? And an amazing middle. That's what it is that the thumbnail and the promise of that clickbait title brings people here. And then when they arrive, you have to deliver it, or do something even harder, which is not quite deliver it, but as soon as they arrive, they go, what is this? What's going on? I didn't expect this. What's this? Right? And then you've got them. Right? This video will be something like, why people hate me. Something like that. That's simple. Why people hate me. What's Andy on about? Why people hate him? Do people hate him? Yeah, they do hate me. And the thing is, there is a real dichotomy here for me. I am someone who studied art and music. I'd worked hard at it. I really committed myself to creativity. When I became a lecturer, I realized that the education system was pushing skills, and skills was only a way for the individual, as I've said, to enact their creativity. And so I started to put creativity at the heart of what I did. Now, I can't give myself a pat on the back for doing that. Just before I came in here, I was chatting to my friend Kevin Gammond, who was like a mentor for me. And when I met him as a teacher, he always put creativity first, at the risk of absolutely everything. And so I did that as well. And when I started doing YouTube, I realized that I could not work within this genre unless I accepted the limits and also possibilities of a YouTube video. And I thought about it in great depth. And as I was doing a video almost every single day, I would try ideas out. And I've now got a sort of bunch of things I do, I suppose, and they're mine. No one else can do them. It's not that I'm the best YouTuber in the world. It's just I'm Andy Edwards. I've finally become Andy Edwards as a YouTuber. If you come here, you know, I'm going to do what I do. That's why my YouTube is called Andy Edwards. And in that, I got that from YouTubers like Mary Spender and Adam Neely, and especially Rick Beato, who had the extra thing that I felt with Rick. He was really, because he's a jazz musician at heart, he's also riffing. He's riffing, and he doesn't mind. He doesn't care. And I took that from him. You know, also this idea that you can talk about anything. So here I am talking about why people hate me. Now, why is that? Because there's a dichotomy, as I said. And the dichotomy is within me is also that part of me as a musician that we all have, where we want to be liked. And also when we're not liked, we don't like it. Now, one of the things that's very difficult about being a musician, if you do stumble on working a way out for people to look at you, right, or you're good enough to know how to manipulate, if you're a Madonna and you know how to get people to look at you, or you're a Kurt Cobain, it just happens that what you did, everyone wants to look at it anyway. But when you're suddenly in that place, if you want to be a success, if you want to be something that people love, right, you will not be loved unless you can also be hated. If you take Taylor Swift or Prince or Michael Jackson or the Beatles or Led Zeppelin or Elvis Presley, for everybody that absolutely loved and worshipped them, there was an equal amount of people that absolutely hated them. Colonel Parker, who was Elvis's manager, not only capitalized on this by making I Love Elvis badges, but he also marketed I Hate Elvis badges. Why? Because he understood this. And that is why he was a manager, and in a way, a very great manager, but also a very, ruthless manager in a way, because that is what the industry is. It's like the devil's bargain when you step into it. So here I am, 57, stepping into this arena. 3 or 4 years ago, few people knew me vaguely, maybe a few IQ fans, a few Frost fans, some people that were really heavy into Led Zeppelin. It was a handful of people who knew who I was. I'd spent a whole lifetime doing music, and I'd amassed a very small following of just a few people. It shocked me. I thought as a kid, if I'd have played with Robert Plant and done all these bands, that if I was to do something, it would be a success. I set up a Bandcamp. I made my own albums. I put these albums out, and then I'd look, and for the whole month, nobody had even listened to these albums. It shocked me. I thought, if I've got a following with all the bands I've played 100 albums, I've done all this. What's it like for someone who hasn't got that? They don't stand a chance. So when I went into this YouTube malarkey, and then suddenly you've got 2,000 subscribers, then you got 3,000. Then before you know it, I've got like 50,000 subscribers. I've got 1,000 people on Patreon. There's almost 1 million people watching it every month. Famous musicians watch it. You get calls from people like Dominic Miller, and you go out and you meet Sting. And the reason you meet Sting is not because you're a good drummer, it's because of your YouTube, right? All this stuff happens, all this is going on, and you start to think, what can I do? Now, one of the greatest albums ever made was Blue by Joni Mitchell. And the reason why it's so great is because what Joni Mitchell did when she was at that point in her career, when she was ready to take over, is she made an album where she basically stripped off that surface and she opened the listener up to her. I can't do that. I don't know how to do that. Right? Everything I understand about art is artifice. Everything's a show. Everything means something. You don't, even if you are portraying the reality of yourself, you know you are. I cannot get past that, I suppose, 20th century postmodern idea that I'm aware of the camera. I'm aware of the window I am sat in, right? So it's all artifice. To my left is 2 Coca-Cola cans, right? They've been thrown on the floor, right? I've drank, it looks like a couple of Coca-Cola cans and then thrown them on the floor, just like that, haphazard. You can see it, it's next to my guitar, my lovely acoustic guitar. And then we've got those there. We've got those albums there. Those albums there are going to appear on my greatest album list. I've just thrown them across the floor. I don't care. I am being nonchalant. I drink Coca-Cola. Once someone criticised me for drinking Coca-Cola. I've drunk Coca-Cola. I've just thrown it on the floor. Why have you thrown it on the floor next to your guitar? Why are your records just thrown out of the place? What's going on in the background? Is that Kelly Groker from ELO's bass in the background? What's going on? Why is it so dark? Why are you not sitting in the normal place? Why does it look composed like Kubrick, and not your normal, why have you done all this? Because everything is artifice. Right, those cans were placed there, and they were placed there so I could point it out to you. And so you that probably thought, oh God, this is interesting, he's dropped some cans there. You think that's just happened, but it's not. I put them there and I knew I was going to talk about, I was going to try and illustrate something that's going on. So for me, there's 2 lots of viewers to this channel. There's those who get upset when I do whatever I do that upsets them. And then there's those who have a little laugh up their sleeve. Now the question is, am I knowingly upsetting people? What do you think? Yeah. These people that were having a go at me, and I get to have a go about absolutely everything in every shape or form. People criticise me. I don't mind it intellectually because I say if people hate me, that means people will like me. I won't be successful. I won't be able to get people to look at me, which means I won't be able to then be creative, try and make a point, try and help, try and do some good. You know what I want? I want music fans to feel emboldened in what they like. I want them to realise it's a much more important bit of their life than they think. It's like the most important thing in their life, usually after their family and friends. And I want to celebrate it. And for those people who are stuck on their own and got no one to talk about it, they could have me and pretend I'm talking to them. I can act like that guy down the pub that also likes the same bands as you or hates the same bands that you, and I want to be entertaining in how much I hate it. Oh, I bloody hate Simply Red. I just went shopping this morning, went down there. They're playing Simply Red. Well, they played Simply Red. I want to hear his horrible voice straining away. My God, he said he was one of the best singers in the bloody world at one point, didn't he, little ginger git? Right, all that. I don't really feel that towards Mick Hucknall whatsoever. I don't like people calling people a ginger git, right? Certain types of people do that, right? And I'm lampooning that, right? I know we live in a political correct world where you shouldn't do that because you can't have nuance, and I might be just, everything I'm doing has an element of truth, but it has an element of parody, a satire. Everything does, right? I've got in the statements for every single video, I am not here to tell the truth. Don't expect me to tell the truth. I am not writing an academic essay, right? I am here creating entertainment videos. In that video, it might just make you laugh. It might make you think about music. If you're a musician, I hope that you'll go, oh, I recognise stuff you've said about what it is to be a creative person. I've never heard anybody say that before. I know that's the case because I've taught music for 30 years and I've dealt with creative people. And I know to get them up and going, more than anything else, it's to, basically make them understand how their creativity and their mental health issues are one and the same thing. And to be able to understand that the solution to their mental health issues is their creativity. I've got mental health issues. This is why I am good at YouTube, because I'm motivated every day to come and do a video. And I enjoy talking through this and I enjoy dealing with this. And at the moment, I'm dealing with the fact that there's a lot of people don't like me. So let's deal with this criticism I've just, I won't get specific on it, but see, I'm laughing as I go into it because I find it funny. A few weeks ago, I did a video called 8 Jazz Musicians That Get on My Wick. Now, the truth is that video, that's the clickbait title. I got Kenny G at the start. I got Michael Bublé at the end. I don't hate those guys. I actually think Kenny G's a bloody good saxophone player, and I like him, and I like when I see interviews with him, and I feel like I'm good on you, Kenny, you know, because he's an ambassador for jazz, like it or not, as is Michael Bublé. But in the middle, I had a whole bunch of different British jazz musicians. Now, I would much rather have done a video called The British Jazz Scene is Shite, right? I would have much rather have done that. And that is suffused all the way through with a bitterness that I have as a 57-year-old musician that reached about a reasonable level of ability on the drums and the guitar, but especially the drums, that loves jazz, that's lived jazz, that's studied jazz, and yet the British jazz scene would not let me in, right? And I am annoyed at that, but I know there's other people like that. Why did they not let me in? Because it's the most elitist, snotty world out there, right? And that's the bottom line. Now, that's what it feels like to me. Is the total British jazz scene like that? No, right? But when I come in, I'm expressing something in me that I want to creatively get out. But by the same token, I'm going to point certain things out. Now, everyone can argue against me by going, you know, that criticism you just said, there's an artist that's not like that. But I'm not interested in that. What I'm interested in is the people that message me privately and went, you hit the nail on the head. What the hell's that sound then? There's another band in here. It sounds like there's feedback. Oh, we don't get a band rehearsing. I'm the one who's supposed to get on people's nerves here. Not. Anyway, so there they are. And they go, this guy's a Burke. I couldn't watch him. Why is he saying this for? What was I saying? That the jazz world is elitist, right? Now, I'm going to let you in on a little method I used for that video. I picked the musicians that are around now. Some of them, it was about 3 or 4 or 5. I picked them first, and then I went onto their Wikipedia page. And when I went onto their Wikipedia page, I knew that they would have gone to private school. I knew the type of person they were. I'm not against those people at all. And it doesn't mean they're bad players, but in some cases, you could actually say these are bad players. There's also players that have been chosen because there is a really strange anomaly with British jazz, and that is the role of black people in that thing. When I spoke to American jazz musicians and I questioned this idea, so I don't think jazz is black music, I think it's just music. They went, you do not understand the African American experience and how African Americans created jazz. And I said to these types who I do not agree with, and I think they're wrong to say that, I said, what about British black musicians? And they said, they don't have that. It's so bizarre. And yet if you spoke to you are almost committing heresy to say that in the United Kingdom, right? I know these things are there. They're really interesting things. In the big furore that was happened, the reason we have a British jazz scene is because of the genius of Courtney Pine, Julian Joseph, and a few musicians, and especially Courtney Pine, really, who was so charismatic and such a great saxophone player that he made British jazz mainstream. And in that wake, the main major labels signed up a whole bunch of people that I don't think were very good. They just happened to get swept up. They're still around now because they are handing out grants and keeping them going, and there's a whole bunch of the British jazz scene that will keep those people going. But some of our great jazz musicians, people like Alan Holdsworth, died in obscurity, scraping a living away because there was no grants for them, even though they were the greatest. Alan Holdsworth is possibly the greatest musician of the second half of the 20th century. And I don't think that's right. Now, I could come on here and earnestly say, well, I've said it here, I've said my point here, but this point is hidden away in this video where I'm trying to explain why people hate me. But you've arrived at that and you might go, I can see what Andy's trying to say, I suppose, right? Should the British jazz scene have some criticism? You bet. Is it enough to make a video about? No, it's a thing that I see, but even in the UK. But the people who are into British jazz, that's the whole point. It's not a scene. It's just an insecure lump of people with private income that can indulge themselves in a non-scene. You know, that's it. The Parliamentary Jazz Awards mean nothing to nobody except a very select few people. It just does not matter. So when I come out criticising it, they go, oh, he's a Burke for saying all this. They don't understand what I'm trying to say. right? They do not get it, right? Here I am on YouTube. I could play jazz tomorrow and thousands of people will watch it, right? And they could go, well, and somebody actually said that about me. You know, in the end, this Andy Edwards has given up playing music to make money on YouTube and do all that. Yeah, why? Because I'm not stupid. If I had a trust fund, I would have my own little jazz group and I could toddle around all the jazz venues, you know, do 10 gigs a year, put an album out, and I could pretend that I was a proper jazz artist. I could be in the magazines. I might even get an award. Can I earn enough money to live off it? No. Is it a job? No. Why am I doing it? Because I'm rich and I've got a hobby doing it. That's the jazz scene all over. But when you combine that with this insecurity and then this bonkers legacy that comes from the 1980s when jazz was popular for a little while, you know, that's you put all that in the mix, and I think it needs someone to come and talk about it on a video somewhere. But I can't just go and do that. I have to do it in this strange way and embed it at the end of the video. Some of you switched on, saw the nipple noise, stayed. I talked about my thing. It was quite interesting. Here I am at the end of the video with the stragglers, because everyone watches them to the end and I don't mind that. And I'm having this long-winded, esoteric chat about the British jazz scene. And the few people are there might be nodding along, and other people will be getting really upset, and they'll go on to their private little discussion group and go, this bloke's a Burke. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's only doing it to get clickbait, right? And all that. And for me, that is incredibly naive in terms of the way the music industry works. But if you have, I'm not saying you're like a millionaire, but if you don't have to worry about money, if you can indulge yourselves in your hobby, then this stuff really doesn't matter. But if you are trying to be at the sharp end of art, if you're trying to be in the place where actual creativity is going on, because the worst thing about jazz is around about 1985, it died, and there hasn't been a creative note made since then. There's been very good jazz. You know, people have been very competent at it. They're very good at playing the right notes to sound like they know what they're doing, but it's all about playing the notes and knowing what you're doing. You try and push that form in any other shape, and A, it won't be jazz anymore, and B, the establishment will turn around and they'll turn on you. Even a band like Bad Bad Not Good, who were a jazz group that came out around about 10 years ago, and were pushing the envelope as much as you could within the jazz genre, and called themselves Bad Bad Not Good because it was a joke about the fact that the jazz world would see them as bad, because they'd come out of a music college, because the music colleges are in like leagues. Most of the people there aren't very good. They've only been taken on by the colleges because it makes the colleges money. The management have brought in their Esperanza Spaldings, whoever it is, and they have been touted to be the next big jazz thing. You know, and they will be, and, you know, colleges will take them on, championing them, but the rest of them are just sat there, you know, getting no attention whatsoever. And Bad Bad Not Good was a bunch of those musicians that formed a group, but because they were interested in hip hop and modern production methods and a whole bunch of other stuff, they did some interesting albums, and they buried it in the name, right? I know about the history of jazz. I know about jazz. I am saying contentious things here about jazz, right? Jazz it's been a sliding scale, but jazz has not been a creative art form for about 40 years. Now, there's a guy that's got a YouTube that I've got in contact with, and in 3 days' time, I'm going to be doing an interview with him, and he's going to challenge me on it, which is great. We're going to have a discussion about it. I might change my mind. I know that it'll be him, you know, reading out a whole bunch of artists I've never heard of and going, they're really good, they're really good. And I feel like trying to make this point, which I will, if nobody's really listening to it, if the only people are listening to it are the direct family and a few people are in and know, and they're all bloody elites anyway, so that's why they're in there listening to it and going to the shows and all that. If this really is up its own arse so much that it has no real impingement on the mainstream, then it can't be creative. You cannot be creative unless you're in that cultural dialogue. You can't. And this is why at the beginning I talked about Bob Dylan. All these incredible jazz musicians that I'm going to be told are really creative but are not, right? I could listen to a lot more and enjoy a lot more than Bob Dylan. But we have to be able to step outside ourselves and say Bob Dylan was important, because those cruddy songs he sang, we all know, had something about them that interacted with the culture. Louis Armstrong did the same thing. Charlie Parker did the same thing. John Coltrane did the same thing. Miles Davis did the same thing. The Mahavishnu Orchestra did the same thing. Courtney Pine did the same thing, as Wynton Marsalis did. But now, you know, being some poshy on a trust fund that's gone to jazz college for 4 years, has come out with £250,000 debt, and it doesn't matter because that's all been paid off, and now you've got your little jazz group and you pay for your own albums to come up, and they arrive on Bandcamp, and you've got like 320 followers on Bandcamp, which is mainly people you know, and your album comes out and you send it to some magazine that nobody reads or some website, and they do a very good review and go, this is cutting edge jazz, it's wonderful. Yes, there is some really interesting cutting edge jazz going on in London at the moment. I do know about it and I've listened to it, but it does not matter. Does not matter. All right, I can bring some musicians here now, set up in here and make some very avant-garde free jazz or some cool funky jazz. I could do it myself. You know, I know some incredible players. I can even go to the players who want the profile of being on my YouTube, the players that they're talking about. I could bring him in here and I could make a recording with them. The bargain will be that I will have to be on drums. And although they kicked me out of that position, right, you know why? Because I was too fusiony, right? Because I had too many toms and I had a double bass drum pedal and I played loud, right? So the British jazz, they didn't like that. They wanted Roy Haynes and they wanted what looked like a bloody sheep stuck on my bass drum pedal. That's what they wanted to see, right? I can play like that as well. I can play like that if I want. But back then, I wanted to be Billy Cobham. And that's the bottom line. And so they rejected me. And they said, Billy Cobham's not jazz. Jaco Pastorius isn't jazz. Well, what's jazz then? Roy Haynes is jazz. I love Roy Haynes. Have you checked out Bill Stewart? I love Bill Stewart, yeah, but I came through this Billy Cobham thing, so that's what my influences are. We don't want it. Why? Because jazz is really specific. You know, when I spoke to Martin Miller, he said that when he went to jazz college, he walks in on that first day, he's got a Strat and he's got a chorus pedal in. The bloody jazz college went, whoop, whoop, all the alarms come off. What's happened? There's a guitarist down there. Go and check out what's going on. They came in. What's happened? You've got a chorus pedal, Martin. Yeah? You've got a chorus pedal. Can you get rid of that now? Why? We don't have chorus in jazz. You can't have chorus in jazz. I mean, you've got locking nuts on the top of your guitar. I mean, it's a Strat style guitar. You got a humbucker. I mean, this is all wrong. You need a guitar like this, and no chorus pedal. It ruined John Scofield choruses and Mike Stern. I can't listen to those 1980s recordings of Mike Stern. I mean, he's a great guitarist, but there's just too much chorus, is it? I don't like the chorus, and not at all. And then they tried to be like Andy Summers of the Police. Well, that was the trend back then. Well, Andy Summers was a very good jazz guitarist, but he was crap because he had chorus, right? And all that stuff, we know it all. I know it inside out, okay? I'm trying to, that's the point that's under here, right? There's points, okay? But I don't do it like that. People are laughing when I'm taking the mickey and getting all irate. I'm getting irate because I'm annoyed from my point of view, which is pathetic. I know that. In the annoyances, some people that go, yeah, and he's saying some stupid stuff, but there's a kernel of truth. Everybody knows there always is. If somebody's laughing, if I can make somebody laugh, there's a kernel of truth there. Always. This is why the politically correct aren't funny, right? Because it's not true. What they're saying is not true, right? In the 1980s, when we needed a dose of left-wing politics, they were funny. They really were. They're not funny now. Dawn French ain't funny now, I'll tell you that. Bloody hell. She's not funny at all, is she? Big fat thing sitting there with a bloody, looking like a geriatric thingy out of The Incredibles. What's her name? Not Edith Head, it was you know that little one. She looks like that now, coming right with the camera like that, going, yeah. You know, can't stick a bloody Dawn French. Wasn't that funny in the early days anyway, just doing impersonations of bloody ABBA. Well, I'm doing it now. That's a grumpy middle-aged man that doesn't like Dawn French anymore because I have got sort of this conservative right-wing politics. That's what I'm lampooning. I could do a serious critique of her, or I could actually say she's a treasure for the scene. They were so important, though, Jennifer Saunders and Dawn French were in terms of British comedy, because although they were very left of centre and they challenged sort of that sexist, comedic world that Bernard Manning embodied, they were still quite sexist. And so for two women to come through, and in the end, their show was more successful than any of the Ben Elton show. I can do all that. We can do it because this is artifice. I choose what to do based upon something that might be a little bit more deeper and you might not have got it. And I might be pushing your button. The fact that the button is being pushed and you're reacting is the success of the video, because you have just put yourself in the actual group that I am actually taking the mickey out of. And have you got the ability when I do that to laugh and go, yeah, it's the truth? Because I could do it. I could do it. When people take the mickey out of prog fans, and say, oh, their sock drawers are all organised, they're all anal retentive, there they are, probably really interested in IT. I have that about me. Right? What's my point in this video? My point of the video is, when you watch a YouTube video, none of it's real. None of it is real. Right? That's real, because I got no control over it, except that the lack of control I have of the scene and whether I'm even in it and all that type of stuff. It's still deliberate. I chose to do that then, right? Sometimes this would be the perfect point for some chaos to come into this video that I'm not in control of, because I open myself up to that, but it's not going to happen. You just can't make things happen like that.
I wonder, hang on.
Well, there's somebody outside, actually.
Oh!
Can you hear that?
Like a bowstring.
I wonder what the hell that was. What are you doing?
Killing everybody.
What are you doing with the electrics? Hello, little doggy. That's not your dog, is it?
No.
You're back to it's what? Yeah, you come for the doggy.
Oh, can you right handed?
Yeah. I'll just see what's going on. I stuck my head out the door. There's two people trying to get an extremely long extension lead downstairs because the power supplies and things like that are really weird in this old factory. So they're trying to get down. And at the same time, there's this woman trying to get this little dog upstairs because she's going to cut the dog's fur. And I had a little look at my composition here. It's actually very pleasant, isn't it? You got the window and you got the stuff. But I also try and let that bit in as well. And that's the other side of my videos. And when I let that in, you'll notice it's always the countryside. It's always nature that comes in. That's the real reality. That's the real beauty. That's the real beauty in the world. That's the subtle beauty that's always there underneath it all. It's very difficult as a YouTuber to jump on this wave of improvisation, have like a million things in your head, like be improvising but also have a structure there, and see themes emerge that you didn't think of and then embed them in, have things that you've planned, bring those to the forth, move around like that, but by the same token opening yourself up to reality, and be ready to do that at any time. And also, it's like sometimes as if any of you are YouTubers out there, next time you're doing a video, just take a break in the video. Sit and think. Allow them to see that. Because in the end, even though that's still quite fake, it's about as real as you can get. And it's a skill to be able to do that. It's hard to learn how to do that. You know, it's hard to sit there and be normal because it's so hard. See that? An affectation just to try and make it a little bit interesting for you. So I think I got to the end of the video now. What the hell's going on outside? It's all bloody noisy. It's very sunny outside. Shall we finish with a bit of sunshine? Do you want to do that? You always like this, don't you? It's not going to go on for hours. I ain't going to go bloody walking around. Last time I did this, I met that woman that was like 90 odd years old. Do you remember? Let's have a walk around, see what's going on. Get out of the building. What are you doing? Sorry.
Am I too noisy, by the way?
Yeah, you spoiled my video, but you're in it now. You're in it now. I had to stop it. I said, well, let's go and find out what the noise is. It's that lady, she's doing vacuuming. I like to see a lady vacuuming, I do.
Now, you're on line duty with me. Well,
What?
that young lady upstairs, she does it once a fortnight, and I said, in between you and I, when we all have banter, hello, am I on film?
You will be, yes, but I won't mention you at all.
Can I ask a favour?
Yeah.
Because you're good at EQing, you use Grace. Can you just, I've got to send this out because it's for an open mic night.
What, for this PA?
Yeah, can you just EQ how you
I'll come and do that in a minute, yeah.
How a woman's voice. Hold on.
I haven't got a woman's voice.
No, but you know what you do when
Yeah, I
you
can
do
do
Grace.
that. Yeah, I'll come and do that for you.
What you think it's
Yeah, I'll come and get that all sorted. Don't say who you are, though. But I just wanted to have a walk into the garden at the end of my video because there's so much bloody noise outside.
You're doing your clip, are you?
Yeah, let's see what's happening out here. I haven't been out here for a while. All right, chaps. Oh, that's lovely. It's if you notice this is my video all the way through it, as I was going on my talk, it was getting darker and darker. Did you notice that? It was getting darker because it was actually quite a heavy sort of rain cloud came over, and now it stopped raining. We've still got water trickling out all everywhere. But that was quite good because there was a lot of action going on when we came out there. Could you understand the point I'm trying to make about real life? Yeah. There's a bird straying behind me. And up here, look, you see? Shall we finish with just having a listen to the rain?